It's not a good feeling when all the work you put in at the gym doesn't give you the results you expected. And the reason why might have something to do with your habits. So in this video, we'll talk about 3 training habits that might be hurting your gains. If you think about it, building muscle and getting stronger really boils down to just a few key factors. And yes, as your gym bros can attest to, checking out your abdominals in the mirror between your sets is by far the most important factor. Of course, the other less important factors are 1. Train progressively, 2. Eat enough food, especially in terms of calories and protein, and 3. Get sufficient recovery. Now, we can work on these factors in many ways, using different programs, techniques, mirror angles, and so on. But some persisting habits might get in the way of working on them as effectively as we like. So let's start now and talk about the first habit. Sometimes people, especially beginners, get too comfortable with their current way of training, especially if it initially provided some decent gains. But again, gains in the long run do require some form of progression so that we can provide a continuously challenging stimuli for our muscles to promote growth and strength adaptations. So the first habit that can hold us back is training the same way all the time. Now, how much this can affect you will come down to the progression strategy of your current training program. But what you ultimately want is a continuous path, if not multiple paths, for progress. Be it by changing the weight you lift, the number of reps and sets you do, or even how often you go to the gym. And this is really just scratching the surface of different progression strategies. But if you are hitting a wall with your progression, thus hitting a wall with your gains, then one of the first things you should think about is if your way of training just isn't cutting it anymore. If so, then it doesn't make sense to keep doing the same thing. Now, we have to be careful of the other side of the coin as well. We don't want to keep changing things just for the sake of changing them. We still gotta let our training marinate a bit to see results, especially results in the mirror, because making serious gains does take time. So yes, it's good to change things up, but still be patient. Now, this next habit is, unfortunately, something that personally still affects me to this day. And that is training our stronger or favorite exercises or muscles too much. We all have our favorites, and no matter how much we try to pretend, we do have a tendency to train them more than everything else, which probably means we're not training everything else enough. Now, this might be okay in some cases, like if you're a powerlifter, training mostly the big 3 lifts, bench press, squats, and deadlifts, isn't too surprising. But even then, ask any seasoned powerlifter and they'll tell you that they very much still work on other things, especially if those things can help improve the big 3. Obviously, ignoring the other exercises and muscles is not a great idea, which can limit full body development and present potential imbalance issues down the line. Now, to deal with this, we should, of course, train each and every muscle group evenly, usually 2 to 3 times a week. But if you ignore your calves, I totally understand. Honestly, training your favorites more is still fine, but if it causes you to skip or put less effort into other exercises, then that's a problem. A strategy that I like to use is to start my workouts with my weaker lifts. By training my weaknesses when I'm at my freshest, it allows me to progress them more effectively. Doing this really works for me to the point that I consider some of my past weaknesses as my strengths today. And even for my favorites, although progression slowed a bit, that's perfectly fine since they were already so ahead of everything else. But again, I do still struggle with this habit. Sometimes you just gotta deadlift for 2 hours. And finally, the third habit. You might be hurting your gains if you have a habit of watching and not doing. Yes, I'm talking about you watching this video, then you end up watching another video, then another, then 3 hours later, you still haven't gone to the gym and you don't even remember why you started watching YouTube in the first place. Now, if they were all Picturefit videos, then that's completely fine, but you do want to be very careful with falling into the trap of digesting fitness content, but never actually putting the content to use. Knowledge is great, but is not a replacement for going to the gym and doing the actual work. And honestly, watching 20 different fitness influencers tell you the same thing, but in different ways, can actually cause more confusion than help. In other words, just watch, like, and subscribe to Picturefit, then put the phone down and pick up the weights. And that's 3 habits that might be eating away at your gains. Hopefully this video was able to shine a light on some habits you're doing that you didn't notice before. Also, let me know any other fitness-related habits you're dealing with in the comments. Other than that, if you enjoyed this video, then please give it a habitual thumbs up and share it with your habit-loving friends. Subscribe for more and let me know what you think in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, and don't forget to get your protein.